A TV show's spin-off showed a passenger jet being hacked and aimed at the World Trade Center months before September 11th. A crime show depicted an AI that spies on everyone. Then real whistleblowers exposed the exact same surveillance years later. Sitcom jokes that guessed where bin Laden was hiding, and cartoons that nailed video calls and corporate takeovers. These are mysterious TV shows that predicted real events. The first episode of The Gunmen is honestly pretty eerie. This show will forever be known as the one that eerily predicted the events of September 11th, 2001. The Lone Gunmen was a short-lived spin-off of The X-Files, focused on conspiracy theorists who usually look crazy, but in the very first episode, the show opens with a commercial airliner being remotely hijacked through a computer system. As the episode unfolds, the plane is deliberately redirected toward New York City and then very clearly toward the World Trade Center. The characters realize the attack is being staged by people inside the US government as a false flag operation to justify massive increases in military spending. At the last possible second, the plane is diverted and crashes into the ocean instead. Now, this aired 6 months before September 11th. After 9/11, the episode became nearly impossible to find. Fox stopped rerunning it, and even the creators said they were pretty uncomfortable with how closely this lined up with reality. The writers later said the idea came from fears about automated flight systems and military simulations, and that they didn't have any inside knowledge, but oh boy, has that not stopped conspiracy theorists claiming that they did. And I mean, I get it, it is pretty specific. Person of Interest premiered in 2011. The show revolved around a secret artificial intelligence system called The Machine that monitored every phone call, email, text message, and security camera feed in the United States. Its purpose was to predict violent acts before they happened. The government officially denied its existence, while secretly using it to track citizens. Now, at the time, I think there were a lot more people who wrote it off as pure science fiction, that it was exaggerating government surveillance to an unrealistic level, but in June 2013, Edward Snowden leaked classified NSA documents revealing real programs like PRISM, which showed that US intelligence agencies were actually collecting massive amounts of data from phone companies, internet providers. There's even an episode of Person of Interest from 2012 where a whistleblower character tries to expose illegal mass surveillance and is targeted, discredited, and forced into hiding. That aired over a year before Snowden fled the US and confirmed that this exact situation was happening in real life. The show's creator Jonathan Nolan later said they were just paying attention to where this technology and government surveillance was already headed. And I mean, nowadays, with how advanced AI is getting, this show isn't even remotely far-fetched. Next on the list is Spooks. This British spy series is especially known for the season 4 premiere, The Special, parts 1 and 2. In those episodes, the team is trying to stop a terror attack targeting the underground subway, carried out by a group called Shining Dawn. The episodes aired in September 2005, just 2 months after the 7/7 bombings. So yeah, it came out after the real-world event, but keep in mind, television shows don't just release as soon as they're filmed. This episode was shot well before the real attacks happened. The story even mentions King's Cross Station, which was one of the real locations hit during the attacks. In real life, the 7/7 attacks killed 52 people and injured around 700 others. Because the similarities were so close, BBC staff really considered pulling the episode altogether. In the end, they decided to air them, but they added trigger warnings at the start of both parts. So far, it's just been a bunch of spy thriller type shows on the list, so here's a curveball: Scrubs, the medical sitcom. Well, in a 2006 episode, the janitor casually says that Osama bin Laden is probably hiding in Pakistan, not Afghanistan. It's a quick throwaway line, and clearly it's meant as a joke, especially given Zach Braff's snarky rebuttal, "Do you have that globe nearby?" Anyway, Pakistan it wasn't in the conversation at this point. At the time, most media coverage focused on Afghanistan as bin Laden's last known location, but 5 years later, on May 2nd, 2011, US Navy SEALs unalived bin Laden in Abbottabad, a residential city less than a mile from a Pakistani military academy. After his death, people rediscovered the Scrubs clip and realized that this little joke actually turned out to be far more accurate than the writers had ever intended. I mean, it was accurate. Whether the writers were guessing or pulling from, quiet speculation at the time, the line aged far better than anyone was expecting. For most of the 90s, The X-Files was seen as pure entertainment, by most people anyway. The show repeatedly portrayed the US government as running secret programs, hiding information from the public, surveilling citizens without consent, and lying in the name of national security. Characters who tried to expose the truth were silenced, discredited, or made to disappear. Now, some folks always knew stuff like this was going on, especially post-Cold War, but I think this kind of thing was still seen as exaggerated entertainment at the time, conspiracy fiction. But years later, real revelations about secret wiretapping, classified intelligence programs, misinformation campaigns, and mass data collection made a lot of those stories feel less fictional than anyone was comfortable admitting. What makes the X-Files different from, other examples on this list is the scale of it. It didn't predict a single event. It's just this whole system and pattern it was depicting on screen. Next on the list is Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. The show ran from 1968 to 1973 and was known for its fast, chaotic sketches and political jokes. In one episode, it somehow managed to make a really accurate prediction about a huge real-world event, the fall of the Berlin Wall. So during a segment called News of the Future, the host joked that the wall had finally come down, with people dancing and singing in the streets. Then they added that it had been replaced by a moat full of alligators. Thankfully, that part never happened, but the sketch itself aired in 1969, when the Berlin Wall was still very much standing and seen as this solid, permanent divide between East and West Germany. At the time, there was no real reason to think it was going anywhere. What makes this even crazier is that the Berlin Wall actually did come down on November 9th, 1989, and the show's 1969 episode said that this future report was coming from the year 1989. Crazy. Next up is Supernatural, specifically Season 5, Episode 4, which aired in 2009 and ended up having some weird similarities to that little global pandemic that we were dealing with for a few years starting in 2020. In this episode, though, Dean gets sent 5 years into the future, where the Croatoan virus has basically wrecked the world. Now, thankfully, the real pandemic didn't turn people into violent zombie-like monsters, though that's debatable. But once the episode shows that public gatherings are shut down and sports aren't happening anymore, suddenly it's a lot closer to home watching now. And one scene in particular stands out, where a character named Chuck explains to Dean just how valuable toilet paper has become and really emphasizes how important it is to hoard it. Now, Supernatural was a really popular show. A lot of people definitely saw this episode, so when everything kicked off in 2020, I would not be surprised if that moment popped into people's heads and they were like, Chuck, that's right, toilet paper, hoard it like gold. This one flew completely under the radar for decades. Second Chance was a sitcom that aired briefly in 1987. In one episode, a sketch begins with this display. It's the afterlife, and a series of famous figures show up in St. Peter's office to be judged, either going to heaven or hell. Now keep in mind, the sketch takes place in 2011. Well, Muammar Gaddafi shows up. At the time, Gaddafi was firmly in power in Libya. He'd survived coups, bombings, decades of violent conflict. Him finally biting it wouldn't be a shock, but the fact that the year 2011 was chosen is pretty crazy in hindsight, because during the Libyan civil war, Gaddafi was captured and taken out in 2011. Before 2020, Legends of Chamberlain Heights aired a scene involving a dark joke about Kobe Bryant dying in a helicopter crash. The show was known for shock humor, and the scene didn't attract much attention when it first aired, but of course, on January 26, 2020, Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others were actually killed in a helicopter crash in California. After the tragedy, this clip started spreading online, and people who'd never seen the show were shocked that such a specific joke existed years before the real event. There's no way the writers knew anything, it's just coincidence, but a really eerie, uncomfortable coincidence. The Jetsons debuted in 1962, and most of its futuristic ideas were played for laughs. You had flying cars and robot maids, those crazy cities above the clouds. Everyone wanted these things to exist one day, but most people probably didn't think they would. Now, people may not be commuting in flying cars, but a good amount of stuff in the Jetsons has become reality. One thing the show really nailed was how people would communicate. George Jetson regularly video called his boss on a flat screen, face-to-face conversations through a device. In the early 60s, that idea was pure science fiction. Decades later, Video calling became completely normal. Skype launched in 2003, FaceTime followed in 2010, Zoom exploded during that little pandemic we talked about earlier, but millions of people suddenly worked from home, held meetings on screens, and lived large parts of their lives digitally. The Jetsons didn't predict the internet by name, but it did predict the behavior. People spending more time communicating through screens than in person, and pretty close to having robot maids as well, unless we become servants to AI robots, which is also a terrifying possibility. Let's hope it goes more like the Jetsons. With all that said though, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.